Okay, so here we are playing Medieval. I did the English turn for the second turn, their player turn, and they drew a pile of cards. Didn't want to collect taxes because they had a civil war in place. Now they drew a mandatory disaster, which ended up hitting the Ayyubids. They played civil war against the Spanish, making things harder on them so that they can't continue on against the Almoravids easily. They attempted to assassinate the French king. That didn't work. They played the Latin kingdom, which gives them a couple more provinces, a little bit more money. And then they cleared their own civil war by making an attack in England and cleaned that up. A lot happening. You know, I think that's how this game is. You just throw down a bunch of things, and stuff happens. You know, with only one attack, they could have expanded the map. They didn't think about that. They're lost. The HRE's hand, well, they added a card which ended up expanding England, but they tossed, a civil war, and they were able to add Bulgaria, or no, did they add Bulgaria? Yeah, Bulgaria and Norway, giving them territories up here. Now, part of Norway's English, but now that there's a free space for Norway, they could grab it. And then they launched an attack for $1 into Denmark from the Empire. They're holding a Crusade card. They didn't want to play it because they don't want to let the English have a chance to get out of excommunication with England, although they excommunicated Denmark. So, you know, one or the other, but they're kind of seeing themselves as being opposed to England at this point and wanting to expand that way. French got a little boned by their card play. Oh, they didn't draw a map card. They chose not to, actually. They got a couple of change of ruler cards, which are forced events. England got, the English player got both of them. England's own ruler is up to a +1 now. And they also got the Almoravids, which didn't change in terms of value. The +1 ruler seemed a danger, so the French tried to assassinate him. That didn't work. Their final card, Knights of Christ, they played to take over Prussia, a pagan territory. Now here's what's tough. How do you tell what's pagan and what's not? I'm not sure. It looks like it may be stripes, will tell you. But it obviously, Kingdom of Jerusalem's not pagan. And it's only allowed to be used to gain control of pagans or Kingdom of Jerusalem, Cyprus, Rhodes, or Malta. I could have grabbed. Yeah, I think it's all, other than the Papal States, which is a different kind of stripe, I think it's all the striped territories. So that's kind of a bonus. Grabbing Prussia, it's a 2-point province. It seemed worthwhile. The French have some power already up there with Livonia. I'm not sure. So there's mercenaries somewhere. And I'm not sure who they are. The Cumans and the Polotvegs, and they'll say it on their card that they have that. So unless they show up, or until they show up, that's not really an issue. Oh, by the way, these little numbers here, the shields, I didn't explain them. That's the bonus that an area has in defending against a Mongol attack. Now, of course, the Mongol attacks come with a big +5 to their die roll. It's possible to use other cards or powers to try to help defend against the Mongols to some extent. I haven't really looked into how that works completely, and, we'll go into it when they start eating things up. Right now, we don't know about them. All right, on to our Spaniards, who are struggling here. A disaster, a civil war, excommunicated. Problems here. They want to try to resolve their problems. Spain was forced to do a taxation event. Now, they got no money because they have a disaster, a civil war, I don't know. They have everything, so they couldn't possibly gain taxes for everything. Excommunicated, though, doesn't prevent taxes, from what I remember. It would be nice if these chits gave some kind of information on that, but it seems to just prevent movement. So they were able to collect 5 florins from Hungary. That puts them kind of back into the game, and that got rid of the disaster in Spain. If they're going to do that, they may want to provide some padding in Hungary. I think they wanted to draw a card too. Kind of cheating by doing this. They should have done it earlier. And we'll add Leave this one. That gives something to the Holy Roman Empire. Corsica and Sardinia are completely neutral, and it gives something to the Almoravids. Okay, the Russians got a change of ruler card that affected the Ayyubids and improved their rulership. They also played a Pope card through another crusade. It's kind of a weird situation. I'm beginning to see this. Okay, you don't necessarily want to win a crusade. Everybody could go. Everybody paid their buck. Everybody decided to go because there's kind of a disadvantage. If you don't go, you just don't get a bonus, right? But this was cool because it opened up Spain and England are no longer excommunicated. Great. Okay. It also handed $4 to the Russian player. So he's, fueling whatever advances he's going to get and getting a pile. But then it was like a +11 to the die roll because of countries like Spain, France, the Holy Roman Empire. Now here's the thing. Countries like France and the Empire probably didn't want to go. The Empire, well, I mean, they wanted to go, but not with their big power. The Empire could have sent Norway instead, thereby not adding 3 to the bonus. France could not have sent, they had no choice but to send France. But that would have lessened the bonus. So on a roll of a 5 with a +11, everybody got $6. Now, this is exactly what the Russians wanted. They want these warring factions to be at each other and to have some kind of parity while Russia's free to expand into the territories that are near it that are empty. People started fights right away, and now they should pay for that. And not necessarily by losing, they should pay for it by being locked in a fight as far as Russia's concerned. Well, that's great, but a country like the Empire could have done better by sending Norway on this, reducing the amount of bonus. That would have been $3 less that everybody, including themselves, got. So instead of $6, everybody would get 3, and that would be less cash for the countries that really needed it, like England or Spain. They're not too worried about Spain here, but England is definitely their opponent. Okay, Russia's going to expand into Sweden. They've paid their buck, and in order to do this, they have to do a naval attack. Now the question comes, does anybody care? The French provinces that are bordering the Baltic Sea don't matter. How about here? The Holy Roman Empire wants to intervene. Over here is the English. They'll stay out of this. They feel like Russia did them a favor, but the Empire's not happy. So the Empire's going to pay a buck to intercept, and now we've got a naval battle. And Russia is at 0, while the Empire's at +1. The ruler doesn't count in a naval battle. All right, so Russia's got a net +1 now. It costs $4 each to sway this. Russia's going to put a good $12 in. The Empire's putting 4 in. Okay, $12 divided by 4 was a +3 for the Russians. That means net advantage, the Russians have +1. Now this is just to cross, to not be intercepted. They win their battle. I'm using red for the attacker pretty much across the board here. Which means now they get to fight Sweden. Now Sweden's a lot easier from their +2 there. They're going to pay another buck. This is or another $3. This is turning out to be an expensive turn for Russia. They didn't expect to get intercepted, and they're at +3. I kind of like +3. It's sort of natural. Bang, they get it. And now I have to check their color. They're this little green thing, and this is important because now if Sweden shows up, they get it. Or somebody has to take it from them, essentially. If somebody plays it, and somebody might have to hold the card, and that's kind of a penalty, having to hold a card. All right, that's the end of this round. I'm going to put in another round before I do another video. Did the Russians add a card? No, they did not, because they did the Crusade attack, and they did the Russian attack. And they have one more card in their hand they could use, but they want to hold this in order to negate effects, perhaps. They probably should have used it against the Empire for the naval battle, But it's so hard for me to keep track of what I'm doing, and they had one as well, but they don't want to use that. Okay. One of the cards they picked was this. I got to reshuffle the deck. Now, these guys stay out of the deck. It's just 3 more Mongols go back in. And so, you know, the density once the Mongols come is kind of proportional, which is to say there's a certain amount of these cards that kind of come out before the Mongol problem occurs, right? So 3 Mongols come out. Well, if you went through most of the deck, that means you're going to have a lot more Mongols proportionally afterwards. And if the deck comes very quickly, well, the Mongols will come out more slowly. Just an interesting little side effect of it all. All right, for the English turn, they got Nick, and they drew a couple of events. A disaster, change of rule. Change of ruler was France. It ended up reducing them. Disaster came up. It ended up being on the Latin Kingdom. I don't know if this is legit or not, but I played a Deus Ex Machina to cancel it after the die roll, which seems a little iffy. But certainly they wouldn't have canceled it before. And they're holding a jihad. I don't know whether or not to throw this. See, they only have one Muslim power, the Almoravids, and they feel fairly secure with them. And perhaps they can come to some agreement with Spain. Let's see if they can talk Spain out of pursuing a war with them. England's not doing badly, so this might not be the easiest thing. Nah, they're not really getting any traction there, so they're going to hold that card. That moves us on to the Emperor. Now, what I forgot to mention, the English drew a card as well, because they collected income. And by the way, collecting income is impressive when you have a fair-sized thing. They pulled $10 in. Yeah, that makes them pretty strong in terms of someone you don't want to piss off. And because of the kind of bidding nature of things, you could give up a bad province, but make it look like, make the opponent think that you're putting a lot of cash in, and make him spend a lot in order to get it. Of course, he could just be probing you, kind of like using cards in Empires of the Middle Ages, wherever I've got that there, to kind of drain the other guy's treasury. Although this with purely hidden bidding means that one side can really bankrupt themselves trying to win the battle. On the other hand, if the battle is lost and it's an important province, it could be a big hit. We'll see. Alright, well, the game just changed. First Mongols came out. The Empire drew it. And I handle this event separately before the rest of their turn. I mean, it's supposed to be handled before, but videoing it. They're picking this space, which is Russian. They're not really opposed to Russia, but everywhere else along the eastern frontier, they have some interest, so this is kind of a painful spot, or this is kind of the least painful spot for them. Now, the Russians may want to defend themselves, but they do not have a card that'll help. So what we have is the +5 bonus in the Mongols versus the +4 defense of this card. Those are the only modifiers. The only other thing that could be done is a Knights of Christ, which would add 2 to the defense. So the Mongols are going to be a +1 on the red die. They fail. Nothing happens. That's cool, because had the Russians lost here, or whoever was rolling, I believe it's the French who are rolling actually, had they lost, this whole territory is just gone. It's out of the game. And there goes their biggest power. Well, not quite. They'd still be down here. But yeah, Russia would be largely knocked out as a significant power. Now, Russia's not doing all that well, so they're kind of happy about this. Alright, I think I screwed up at some point. I'm looking at the Pope card because the Emperor has a Pope card. He got a bunch of events, actually. He also got a disaster and a change of ruler. The disaster affected England. The change of ruler didn't affect Venice, but whatever. But the Pope card, the specifics as to what... And damn it, the support that this game comes with is so bad. It is why this game is probably poorly rated, because it's kind of a cool little game. The Pope card, if I play that, I can't draw a map card. Well, I didn't. Not yet. And I can't take income. Well, taking income makes sense because it's playing an action card, but I also can't draw a map card, and I think somebody may have done that. Question here is, I think the Russians did actually. What do I want to do with the Empire here? I kind of want to get rid of the Pope card. I don't want to just hold it. So the question comes to, well, do I want to get money? And then you got to kind of look at the board and say who's winning, who's not, and that's hard to tell. I look like I'm doing pretty well. The Empire's worth a lot, but England's got a lot of powers too. Russia's worth a lot, but they're probably doomed. There's so much randomness, it's really hard to judge how well you're doing. I think probably the best answer is collect some money, but how do you want to collect money? Do you want to tax? Or do you want to play the Pope card and grab money from other people? Well, some of these people have enough money that maybe taxing is the best option. I don't know. Anyway, I'll be back in a bit. Yeah, given the choices, I don't think I want to play the Pope card. I'm drawing a card. In this case, I get this one, which adds more. Hey, for me, bonus. But also for Venice, which is green, I believe. It's very hard to see these. And I did a taxation, which brought in 20 bucks, but that's actually going to bring in 21. So I got another territory, if I counted right, you know. It's kind of tough to count all these provinces. Well, what do I do with the Pope card? Do I hold it? It's better than a random event. I'm going to hold it. It's not a bad card. I think it's as good as just about anything except maybe a Knights of Christ card. And here's the thing. The reason I didn't want to play, the reason I went for the taxation, not only does England just do a big taxation, and now I feel kind of afraid from them, but also I have very few cards. I had 3 events drawn in my hand, so I didn't have much I could do this turn, except for my attacks. So I don't know what I'm doing, but with the French, I drew a new card and added something dangling off here that nobody can basically get to. And yes, the map is very weird. I also did an attack into Trebizond. I've got another potential attack. Oh, I didn't pay for that. From the Seljuks, and took that. But now it gets kind of iffy. What do I want to attack? These Prussians I can't do. I don't have passage anywhere. I don't have a pile of money that I could necessarily face down anyone. I could attack the Russians, but, you know, I think the Russians have their own problems, and I'd rather not deal with them. So largely now it becomes, okay, do I want to make a naval attack somewhere? Well, who would be interfering? The Bulgars. They're not too risky. I guess I could go take the Cumans on. That doesn't sound like a bad choice. And we'll throw those in. And what do we got? We got +1 naval. I don't think anybody's going against me. The Latin kingdoms could. But, you know, this just doesn't look worth fighting over for most people. So I'm going to let them go in. And they're not terribly interested in this battle either. So I'm not throwing money in for the French either. And they win it. And that's kind of one of the things is you just don't know what's going to fall, what's not. Right now, I think this is an easternmost card, but I'm not sure. This one may be kind of covering part of it. It's kind of tough to see. If you look at the map sheet, what do we got here? F. 1F. 1F's up here somewhere, actually. And 3F is in alignment with D, pretty much where it is. So, this is an easternmost card and could be picked. I don't think anybody's too interested in it. Alright, I'm holding a couple of cards. One's the Pope, one's the Jihad, which I can use with the Seljuks. And, you know, I don't know what what to do, really. Well, I started the Spaniards' turn in Hungary. They played the Bulgars, but then I realized, uh-oh, we got a problem here, and plus I don't know if I want to draw a card or not. Given that I'm playing the Bulgars, maybe I do. I don't know. This is a Latin kingdom space. It should be English. Now, the reason I didn't notice is that it's striped so that the knights can attack it. Yeah, just weirdness is. Very strangely, and the rules will take precedence here, but the way the card is worded may be used to support attack or gain control. We understand how to gain control, and supporting a crusade makes sense, but the way it's worded in the rules, and this is what I'm sure is intended, is it's played by a Catholic power being attacked. That's not really supporting an attack, and, you know, again, along with a lot of other things, a lot of sloppiness in terms of the actual, what was produced and how useful it is to play. It's kind of a pity, because I think it is a cool game if it only had, you know, a little bit more development work done on it to make sure that everything was nailed down. You know, it's just a sad state when something gets rushed out like this obviously was. And the Spaniards finished things up, fired off an attempt to break their civil war. Ended up getting the ruler killed and getting a better ruler. They threw heresy down on this English province, and they played a Knights of Christ to go grab Northern Kingdom of Jerusalem. That'll produce income at kind of random times whenever a Pope card's played. But can't be taxed normally. Just lots of weirdness there. No idea what I'm doing in this game, though. And to end things up on this cycle and for the video, the Russians taxed, but they managed to get this piece added into their territory. They actually got a decent amount of money, some 23 bucks, nice pile. I don't know what it matters. That's not really victory conditions, but they feel like they need it to compete with the big boys. So right now there are a couple of people with real lacking money. Over here, the French just don't have the kind of cash that, you know, three of the powers do, and the Spaniards as well. That makes them kind of ripe targets. And given that they have powers over here in the West that are immune from Mongols, although the Russians seem to be doing their own job at beating them off, they might be more interesting targets. So, for example, Russia has no powers that are safe. So they might be interested in pushing forward. Of course, here's the problem. The Holy Roman Empire also is largely unsafe. They might be interested in pushing forward. It's a tough game to judge where you're sitting and what's valuable. You know that some people have a decent amount of points, but it seems hard to convince, say, the Holy Roman Empire to go after France when there's Poland sitting here. Russia, well, they could sail out and do it. They have the cash to do it. But there are things near them, and if they get lucky, they can survive the Mongols. And there's so much luck in it that it's really, really tough to, like, feel like you're making, you know, informed, good decisions ever. Anyway, I'm loading this one up.